Now, let me go back to Robert Jastrow, who states that theologians generally are delighted with the proof that the universe had a beginning, but astronomers are curiously upset. Their reaction provides an interesting demonstration of the response of the scientific mind, supposedly a very objective mind, when evidence uncovered by science itself leads to a conflict with the articles of faith in our profession. It turns out that the scientist behaves the way the rest of us do when our beliefs are in conflict with the evidence. We become irritated, we pretend the conflict does not exist, or we paper it over with meaningless phrases. Some prominent scientists began to feel that the same irritation over the expanding universe that Einstein had expressed earlier. Arthur Eddington wrote in 1931, "I have no axe to grind in this discussion, but the notion of a beginning is repugnant to me. I simply do not believe that the present order of things started off with a bang. The expanding universe is preposterous, incredible. It leaves me cold." The German chemist Walter Nernst wrote, "To deny the infinite duration of time would be to betray the very foundation of science." More recently, Philip Morris of MIT stated in a BBC film on cosmology, "I find it hard to accept the Big Bang Theory. I would like to reject it." And Alan Sandage of Palomar Observatory, who established the uniformity of the expansion of the universe out to nearly 10 billion light years, said, "It is such a strange conclusion, it could not really be true." Einstein wrote, "The scientist is possessed by a sense of universal causation." This religious faith of the scientist is violated by the discovery that the world had a beginning under conditions in which the known laws of physics are not valid, and as a product of forces or circumstances we cannot discover. When that happens, the scientist has lost all control. If he really examined the implications, he would be traumatized. Max Tegmark in Scientific American states, here's how far we're going with this, by the way. "Is there a copy of you? The idea of such an alter ego seems strange and implausible, but it looks as if we will just have to live with it, because it is supported by astronomical observation. In infinite space, even the most unlikely event must take place somewhere. There are infinitely many other inhabited planets, including not just one, but infinitely many that have people with the same appearances, name, and memories as you, who play out every possible permutation of your life's choices. The concept of the universe is grounded in well-tested theories." Actually, let me stop there a second. That's supported by astronomical observations? Well, show it to me. I mean, what astronomical observation concludes that there's someone out there with the same appearance, name, and memories as me? I'd just like to see it, that's all. He continues, "The concept of a multiverse is grounded in well-tested theories such as relativity and quantum mechanics, and it fulfills both of the basic criteria of empirical science. It makes predictions and it can be falsified. The key question is not whether the multiverse exists, but rather how many levels does it have." And to this particular remark, George Ellis states in his lecture, A Critique of Multiverses, "Tegmark is giving us untested speculation, including the casual assumption of truly existing infinities passed off as established fact. I think this is completely irresponsible writing, and I think it's unscientific stuff attempting to be passed off as science." And in his lecture, The Multiverse, Ultimate Causation in God, George Ellis states, "The very nature of the scientific enterprise is at stake in the multiverse debate, because multiverse components weaken the nature of scientific proof in order to claim multiverses provide a scientific explanation. In my view, this is a very dangerous tactic. What we are told, what people would like us to believe, is that known physics leads to the multiverse. The true situation is that known physics is extrapolated to hypothetical physics, which leads to the multiverse. The multiverse is not the result of known physics. but is the result of a major extrapolation of known physics to an untested domain. And it is that untested extrapolation which leads to the multiverse. People are proposing to us we should place theory above observation, and this is a dangerous trend in science, which we are seeing in the multiverse. Let me go backwards a little bit. This is a dangerous trend in science, which we are seeing in the multiverse, is people telling us, don't worry about what the observation, worry about my theory. And he goes on in his lecture, A Critique of the Multiverse. Belief in the multiverse is an exercise in faith. Does a multiverse in fact exist? I have no idea. I think you can believe what you want. What do you find aesthetic? What gives you comfort? What do you like? And Martin Gardner, in Our Universe is Thicker Than a Blackberry, states, the stark truth is that there is not the slightest shred of reliable evidence that there's any universe other than the one we are in. No multiverse theory has so far provided a prediction that can be tested. In my layman's opinion, they are all frivolous fantasies. As far as we can tell, universes are not even as plentiful as 2 blackberries. Surely, the conjecture that there is just one universe and its creator is infinitely simpler and easy to believe than that there are countless billions upon billions of worlds constantly increasing in number and created by nobody. I can only marvel at the low state to which today's philosophy of science has fallen. And how far has it fallen? You know the story about the discussion as to upon what does the earth rest? And somebody stated, well, it's on the back of a turtle. So they were asked, well, and what is the turtle resting on? They said, well, another turtle. Said, and what's that turtle resting on? And finally, they just get frustrated and say, it's just turtles all the way down. And now today, in this technologically advanced age of science, we're basically just being told it's not turtles all the way down, it's multiverses all the way down. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just a non-explanation to explain a real issue. It's just multiverses all the way down. That's all it is. Where did the universe come from? The multiverse. Where did the multiverse come from? The multiverse. There's just no end in sight. It's an infinite regress. And that explains nothing. So now, we got some hints thus far, but let's get to the real meat of the motivations behind the multiverse theory. From various perspectives, let's start with Scott Todd in the journal Nature, who states, even if all the data pointed to an intelligent designer, such a hypothesis is excluded from science because it is not naturalistic. Incidentally, I think the real problem with that statement is if all the data really did point to an intelligent designer, then science would accommodate that bit of data. I mean, science would change, its methods would be applied to it. I mean, he's really talking about a naturalistic worldview that will not allow a divine foot in the door, as Richard Lewontin put it. Amanda Gefter in New Scientist states, if this theory doesn't pan out, our only other option is a supernatural one, is to abandon science itself. And Leonard Siskin in New Scientist states, as things stand now, we will be in a very awkward position. Without any explanation of nature's fine-tuning, we will be hard-pressed to answer the ID critics. And ID there, by the way, is intelligent design. And further evidence of these sort of motivations, Bernard Carr in Universal Multiverse. To the hardline physicist, the multiverse may not be entirely respectable, but it is at least preferable to invoking a creator. Indeed, Anthropically inclined physicists like Leonard Susskind and Steven Weinberg are attracted to the multiverse precisely because it seems to dispense with God as an explanation of cosmic design. And in a footnote to that statement, he writes, "It should be cautioned that the concept of cosmic design being described here has nothing to do with the intelligent design movement in the USA. Nevertheless, atheists might hope that the multiverse theory will have the same impact in the context of cosmic design than the theory of evolution did in the context of biological design." And this is another very popular position, by the way, is to marry Darwinism with the multiverse. And they refer to it in the exact same terms. Out of all these bubbling up universes, which ones survive, which ones fizzle out? It's natural selection. I mean, it's all the same thing. And he hopes that it will do for cosmic design as the theory of evolution did in the context of biological design. Well, what has it done? Let's see. Francis Crick in What Mad Pursuit states, "My biologists must constantly keep in mind that what they see was not designed, but rather evolved." And Richard Dawkins in The Blind Watchmaker, "Biology is the study of complicated things that give the appearance of having been designed for a purpose." Okay, so in other words, first you deny the evidence, then when you find you can't deny it anymore, you just say, the evidence is clear, but you need to look at it through the spectacles of your worldview. And our worldview will not allow you to conclude that they were actually designed. It's just an appearance. It just seems that way. So you can imagine how this is being applied to multiverse theory. Same thing. Fine-tuning, VAT. Edward Milne in Relativity, Gravitation, and World Structure states, "It has sometimes been held that these oscillating universes of general relativity provide for cycles of evolution, and for this reason they have been favorably considered. Actually, they have not been previously analyzed in detail as regards their appearance to observation, so that it has not been previously realized how remarkably they stand in conflict with experience. They must be totally and absolutely rejected as irrational. They are fantastic weavings of mathematical looms, orgies of mathematical license, divorced from experience. They are possible only in the sense that in a dream everything is possible." And Fay Flam in the journal Science, "Cosmologist Michael Turner of the University of Chicago recently coined a rule that, in a cosmological theory, you can't invoke the tooth fairy twice. His tooth fairy is not a mystical being who replaces lost teeth with quarters, but any wild, whimsical assumption dreamed up to answer some problem. In a field like cosmology, where the questions are vast and the data scarce, you would expect to have to summon a tooth fairy from time to time. But today, to hear many cosmologists' talks, the population of tooth fairies is exploding. In some of the newest theories, we're inventing a new physical principle for every new observational fact," complains astronomer Mark Davies of the University of California, Berkeley. "The field of cosmic structure is open up to creative speculation." And now we're getting to the bottom line. Bernard Carr in Discover states, "If you don't want God, you'd better have a multiverse." Tim Folger and New Scientist, "Short of invoking a benevolent creator, many physicists see only one possible explanation. Our universe may be but one of perhaps infinitely many universes in an inconceivably vast multiverse." And Steven Weinberg in New Scientist, "If you discover a really impressive fine-tuning, I think you'd really be left with only two explanations, a benevolent designer or a multiverse." Which incidentally, I think that these statements are classical false dichotomies. Why is it the multiverse or God? Why is it one or the other? Why couldn't God have created multiverse? Now that might step on your theological toes, but just the fact is God could have, okay, you just put it out there, God could have done it, and so there's not this dichotomy anymore. And on the other hand, if someone attempts to argue God's non-existence with you by referencing the multiverse, give them a big old hug, because they just did you a great favor. All you have to say to them is, oh, infinite universes? Well, then surely in at least one of them God exists. Thank you very much. You just proved God's existence. There you go.